Yes, we are recording.
Gosh, Gareth, that's a very nice camera.
Yeah, isn't it a lovely camera? Yeah, I wonder if the listeners can see the difference, if the pictures look any sharper. I think the colours are better than the last camera.
I think my colour's probably worse.
I think you're looking all right there, Bill, actually.
Thank you.
But yeah, new camera, you know, this is what happens. 6 hours it was 6 hours to kill at Bangkok airport a couple of weeks ago, and so along comes a new camera and a very smart pen.
If the resolution's good enough, you'll see it says 1633, so we're just out of recording the current show, so we can tell you what's in it.
We can
remember.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
exactly.
Sort of what happens is we tend to come off air, the red light goes off, and then all of the stuff just slops out of our brains onto the floor, and the bush house cleaners have to come and mop it all up.
Yeah, exactly. And then they sort of tip it into a bucket, and then we kind of pour that back into the computer and read it out the following week. Sometimes, anyway.
Or on one of the other World Service science shows.
So, we have been talking about Obama, we can say that much. In fact, across a lot of, yes we can, across a lot of the Science app, but we've been talking about Obama this week. So we've been asking, is Obama really going to bring broadband to the United States? I was very impressed they're going to be spending $7 billion on bringing broadband into rural areas until Bill Thompson here put it into context. You know,
as anyone who listens to me on Radio New Zealand on This Way Up with Simon Morton will know, in New Zealand they're spending $1.5 billion New Zealand dollars. In Australia they're spending $30 billion US dollars over the next 10 years on connecting 90% of all households to 100 megabits internet, and also looking at WiMAX and other technologies for the rest. And I think it's a public-private partnership. There's just a real desire to do that, and also a sense that doing it will create jobs while you roll out the network, and also will sustain the economy through the current unpleasantness.
Indeed. So if you're a fan of the World Technology podcast, by the way, with Clark Boyd, then you'll enjoy this interview, because as well as
Clark Boyd!
Yes, he can! Clark was talking to us from Boston all about Obama as well.
And he had Phil Noble on the line as well, and Phil is one of the stars of the e-politics arena, been around for years, knows more about this than anyone I've ever encountered, and is also one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. So that was really nice to have him on the show too. So
speaking about kind of nice people who know a lot about things, well, Bill Thompson obviously, Steve Wozniak, part 2 of our Steve Wozniak interview. Wozniak was doing a bit of future gazing with us, mainly because we asked him to, and he says that personalisation is the way to go. So if you use that genius, it is genius actually,
it is called
the genius function on your iTunes, then you'll know all about, you know, kind of personalisation stuff. But there's a cautionary tale amongst all this, isn't there? If you listen to the podcast, and you'll know.
Yeah, Google Amazon fail, you'll know all about it. And speaking of Google Maps Kenya launched recently, and so we had some interesting stuff about mapping countries outside Western Europe and outside North America, and how it may or may not be important and useful, and talked a little bit about some of the open mapping projects, because personally I would rather people built their own maps, which were then unencumbered, than just relied on third-party products from large companies, however unevil they may be.
Okay, and also the...
Not that I'm saying Google is evil, you understand, Google unevil, completely unevil, not an evil company.
Not evil in any way.
No.
True to their motto.
They are.
Great stuff, but not that we were at all scared about that bit. Moving swiftly on to Italy, actually, and the aftermath of the earthquake, and alongside the kind of relief workers and doctors and reconstruction engineers going to the region, also a load of scientists armed with some LiDAR equipment. This is kind of like radar, but it uses light. And
it is radar, but it uses light. It's not like radar, but it uses light.
Well, you could quite, but if you said it
okay,
is radar, it might mislead people
radio
into
waves,
thinking that
electromagnetic radiation, James Clerk Maxwell equations.
Different part
Did
of
you
the
learn nothing in physics?
I did Maxwell's equations as part of my
just because
engineering
your
degree,
eyes
so
are
I know
unable
perfectly
to
well.
see the wavelength they use for radar, and can see the lasers that use LiDAR.
But I think people would pick us up if we called it radar, so that's why I made that distinction.
But I'm feeling the pedant in me would like to call it all radar.
An evening out with me and Bill can be really,
we could call it M-bar, because electromagnetic.
Well, let's rebrand it M-bar in that case. Everybody will be happy. So yeah. Anyway, LiDAR, radar, M-bar, whatever you want to call it, is being used in Italy, and may be a means of, or is being a means of imaging these kind of faults and scarps that emerge after earthquakes, and might be a way of saving lives in the future through predicting aftershocks and stuff like that. I think that's the whole programme.
Yeah, that's right. So in fact, you don't even need to bother listening now. That's it. You've had our insights.
That's about it. But before we go, I think we should actually just kind of appeal to people people's humanity here. We're in this studio, as people probably know, we do this programme on a Monday, which in Britain is a public holiday, whilst everybody
Not
else
every Monday, this particular Monday.
Yeah, exactly.
I know some people think we're lazy.
In my head, it's a holiday every Monday. So whilst other people probably around this building are kind of doing the tourist sites and having a nice time and sitting in the sun drinking beer, me and Bill and all our producers and people behind the screen, they've gone actually. Well, anyway, they have been
brought
working
his family
really hard.
in because it's a holiday and they had nothing else to do.
That's how hard we work. That's how we suffer for you, dear listener. But we love it really.
So that's why you pay the licence fee. Oops, you don't. You're the World Service. Anyway, thank you.
That's why you pay the taxes if you live in Britain. We thank you. We're going to go and spend some of them now, but well, I've already spent them on that camera. Oh, I think we'd better wrap this up actually. That was going quite well and we've messed up the ending.
Yeah,
but we'll keep it in anyway, whatever. See you next week, folks.
Our editing skills are legendary. Legendarily bad.
I think so. See you next week, everybody. See you next week, Bill.
Bye.
Brilliant. Good. That was lovely.